I think it's pretty normal for, I guess, for my culture to be kind of strict in cases I come from an Asian background, so my childhood was similar to very strict, very school oriented. Kind of was born in Toronto and then moved to Upper Vaughan, like Vaughan area. But yeah, everything's very similar. I was raised Buddhist, but we weren't very orthodox Buddhist. We were just kind of the Buddhist that I was basically Buddhist, kind of Confucius Taoist. It's a lot of Chinese culture, but not a lot of the laws of Buddhism. Basically, Buddhism started off in India, so it's like the evolution of Hinduism. But the unfortunate thing about Buddhism to me is that while Buddhism traveled through the Middle East and reached China and most of Asia, it hit other religions and they kind of fused together. Because original Buddhism was based off of a monotheist type of religion. It was very one God based. Even according to now, they say that Buddha never believed in God, but it's stated in many of his verses that he talked about God all the time. But when it reached China, there was other religions going on. There was Taoism, which a lot of Chinese culture is based off of, like feng shui and like a lot of the energy around us and the balance of the five elements. And then Confucianism, which was based off of the philosopher Confucius and his teachings and sayings. And when Buddhism hit there was a lot of similarities between the religions, but so they kind of fused. And so you get a kind of a mixture of Buddhism with Taoist culture and Confucius beliefs. They're really similar, but they're extremely different in the case of you went from a singular God, a monotheist God, to a polytheist religion, where we have many deities, where we believe that they're like gods in the ground, and we have the king of gods kind of thing. That's what happened. Actually, all the teachings of Buddha were not strictly from his mouth and written down by his hands. They were all written by his disciples, like a decade after he passed away. So I myself believe that Buddha was a prophet, but because if you look in his readings, even the ones written by his disciples, the teachings are very similar to the ways of Islam. In the case of balance and do not overdo this or overdo that, try to avoid like all the same, like 10 Commandments is in Buddhism. That a lot of the rules of like keeping away from the opposite sex to avoid desire for them is in Buddhism. That's the reason why I became Muslim, is because there's so many connections between Buddhism and Islam. And the biggest thing was that Buddha himself said that at the end there will be a final teacher after him, and you should follow him. And the way he spoke of it, basically, he said that his disciple asked him, "What happens who should we follow when you pass away?" And he said, "When I pass away, there will be another Buddha after me." It's like, what will be the signs? He will have followers by the thousands, while I have followers by the hundreds. Now, there's only two religions after Buddhism that fit those ratios, and that's Christianity and Islam. And so the biggest thing was that, what will his name be? And Buddha said that his name will be Buddha Maitreya, which I forget which language Maitreya comes from, but it basically means the most merciful, praised one. There's many different meanings you can go with, but in the end it will translate in Arabic to Muhammad. When I was much younger, ever since I can remember, I believed in God. I just always trusted my parents that they were teaching me the right things, and a lot of what they said made sense, and I just walked into it blindly. But as I grew up older, I want to know a little more about my religion. And when I was a little kid, elementary school, I learned only one teaching of Buddha that I remember. That was a quote. It was basically that life is suffering. And I'm like, as a kid, you're kind of going, wow, that's a terrible thing to think about. But then that always came back to mind as a kid. And then when I went through high school with that one thing, I thought about it. I'm like, wait, this makes sense. There's a lot of suffering in the world, but maybe Buddha's not saying that you should point out all the suffering. Maybe you should point out all the good things and acknowledge that you have all these good things in your life. Why aren't you happy? Even though there is suffering in this world, you still should be happy because there's all these good things. And when I got older, I met one of my friends, and he was the one that converted me. His name's Schwab Muhammad Omar. He's the one that kind of helped me. We guided each other into Islam for the sake of, we grew up and we were like, we want to become wiser. We want to identify ourselves. We want to be more true to ourselves, because in a world where there's so many masks and so much fake, and media is always telling us to do this, but we want our own moral code, and religion seemed like the best way to go. So we each looked into our own religions, and we found more and more connections through it. But before then, I was more of a, but before that happened, to my parents and to everything else, my mom was, even in Asia, there's different types of Buddhists. So
Right.
it was broken down to, like, my mom was Chinese, so I was like part Chinese Buddhist, and my dad was Lao, so I was Lao Buddhist at the same time. And the difference that I noticed is that Chinese Buddhists don't eat meat, but
Okay.
Lao Buddhists eat meat, like the Buddhist monks themselves. And I never liked the idea of, because what I learned from Buddhism is that if you're gonna be a Buddhist monk, you shouldn't kill or eat anything that comes from, like, take a life of an animal and eat it,
Right.
because that was the big thing. So that's one of the faults that made me want to look in more in my religion, and my friend was the one that ignited even more. So we looked into our religions, and then when I said that, when I explained all these faults to my parents, my dad never really cared in the first place, so he never really went against me. But my mom was constantly saying that I was learning something wrong, but I was like saying, like, but the stories are the same. The Buddhist stories in Chinese and Laos were the same as the Buddhist stories from India, about the man from his palace. He was a prince. He forsaken all belongings to this world to aim for the next life, kind of thing. And the main practices that I learned were Chinese New Year, and once probably maybe and Lao New Year. So basically, the Lunar New Year's at different times in different areas or at different times. So during.
Can you relate that back to Buddhism, or is that more cultural?
This is more cultural. This is where the cultural things comes back. I believe that Buddhism doesn't have any actual holidays
Right.
that to speak of. So this is where the cultural thing comes in. So the practices of Chinese New Year is to bring back basically call back and your ancestors from before, and then bring them to a dinner, and then give them respect, because they are the reason why I'm here, and like thank them and for all the good things they brought upon my parents, and to protect me through future generations. That's like how Chinese New Year is brought up. That's the very gist of it. So that was basically the biggest factor that I had to do all the time. But but the main thing is that my parents with religion was very lenient. As long as I said I was Buddhist, they never really asked me about anything until I changed into the other type of Buddhist, and then they were all over me. It's not that I rejected it, it's more of that I took more of the cultural aspect of Buddhism, all the extra deities, all these things that didn't fit the original Buddhist, that I just removed it. Like, I didn't, at that point of when I removed it, I didn't know if my parents were 100% wrong yet.
Okay.
I was just like, this is more right. And like, I guess at that point I didn't want to say anything aloud to them, because I didn't want them to get angry or scold me or tell them that I'm doing the wrong thing. But I kept hinting that I think there's more likely only one God, and that I wasn't 100% sure yet, but I was almost absolutely sure that that was what happened. Like, there's only one God. These other gods don't make sense. They're not here. So yes, I guess I did reject it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even in books nowadays, this is the information I found out, and this is how I perceived it, and this is what made sense to me. There is Buddhists that believe in a monotheistic God, which believe in Brahma, which is the creator in Hinduism. And then there's Zen Buddhists that say that they're more pure for the sake of, they follow all the teachings of Buddha to a T, but they don't believe in God. They aim for, like, nirvana, and which Buddha spoke of nirvana, but it wasn't really kind of but he always spoke of Brahma too. So it's still the divisions happening. Like, I try to aim for the more original Buddhists in a way. That's what I meant by pure, the most original, back to what he said. Surprisingly, the research itself isn't. It doesn't take that much of your time. You just it's what you take in. It's what's more important. I felt like throughout my whole journey, I felt like I was guided towards the right sites, towards the right path. I felt like it's leading me somewhere. That's what in the end what I felt like. And with the help especially with the help of my friends, it's like it was me and my other friend that were doing this together. So it felt like two minds going at once. So we're probably going at double the speed anyone else was going, and like, I was still able to enjoy anything else. So I looked basically normal. I was always just spouting quotes about Buddha and saying, like, and be like, what will be a quote be? the cause of suffering is desire. I'll be saying things like that, or a jug will only fill one drop at a time. Like, be patient, take your time with things, kind of thing. Like, I would always be spouting things about that. And I was just kind of thought I was like a really Asian guy, so it wasn't like with a stereotype. It just didn't. It made sense. It was like, oh, he's Asian. Yeah, of course he's gonna spout quotes about Buddha. Like, so it wasn't a big deal when it came to school. Basically, my mom believed that what she was taught from her parents, her grandparents, that were right. Like what my great-grandmother and great-grandfather were telling her were right, what my grandfather was telling her was right. So basically, she was just under the impression that follow what her parents followed, and because she felt that they were she felt like that's where the tradition and everything will come through the best, and that the internet can be corrupted. When it came to religion, even though I was Buddhist, a big thing about Buddhism is that allow people to believe what they believe and accept them for who they are. So I believed, especially when it came to being a monotheist, I believed a lot of what Islam said was correct already. Like, especially with the case of, we kept bouncing ideas, so we found a similarity. I'm like, so when it came to him, I guess he trusted either of us. He would still call himself Buddhist, but he would trust either of us, because so far we had no contradictions, except for the case of maybe when it comes to reincarnation was one thing that was still within Buddhism at that time. We believe, I believe we believe in the end of the world. This is like I didn't check up. I didn't stay pure Buddhist enough to do enough research. But yeah, we believed. But I believe we believe in the end of the world. But during that timeline, we constantly karma. The more good we do, the more likely we'll reach a heavenly state. The more bad we do, the more likely we'll be in a worse state, so hell or an ant, something small, like an animal no one likes, kind of thing, until we get enough good deeds to come back as a human, and then the cycle goes again. That night where I found out that Buddha just hinted towards Islam, like that's what kind of was mind-baffling, and that's what kind of made me go, if I truly believe in Buddha and I truly say that I'm Buddhist, I should listen to his words and change, convert, become Islamic. And so I guess that was probably 3 or 4 months before I actually became Muslim. And then after that, I just waited for a Quran to come, and I became Muslim. Because like I wanted to convert, but after like learning about it, I was just like, you know what, this seems like the right path for me. And so I started learning I started learning the prayers. I started learning the sayings, small sayings, and basically when I mastered those, I converted. At this point, it was like a mix between me and my friend.
Bouncing ideas off each other?
Yeah, well, he already knew the prayers, so he was just teaching me the prayers, and that's what happened. And that's how I learned it. Then I just went through a little bit of research through like Islamic sites, and I got a couple sayings like Assalamu alaikum and like Alhamdulillah, small things like that. Remember when I told you about when I took in research in Buddhist file words? That's the biggest thing. So I basically only have 2 choices: Christianity or Islam. It leans towards Islam because the name Maitreya was closer to Muhammad. But there's always, who knows what happened during that time. Maybe someone changed it to fit more of the Islamic needs. Just saying. But the biggest thing that I found huge is Christianity is extremely divided. There's Catholicism, Protestants, Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's the biggest issue I had in Buddhism in the first place, because we were divided, and I hated that. I did not like that idea at all. But Muslims were united. It says that we shouldn't be divided anyways. So hearing that, I guess it kind of lit me up, and I'm like, this is the right path. Like I've been guided by somebody, and in the end I know it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that throughout all this, that this was the right path. Through Buddhism, I felt like I was being guided through weaning, like basically getting rid of all this useless information and retaining, I guess, the most important principles of Buddhism, and then learning about what I should do after he passes, and then following through with it would be to follow Islam, because Christianity is divided, and there's only 2 choices. Like you could have gone with either or. Like merciful one, Prophet Isa is known as one of the most merciful prophets, peace be upon him. So it could have gone either or, but Christianity is divided, so I wouldn't be able to get the true words, like God's true words from it, because humans' hands have touched it and it's been divided so many times. But the Quran has not been touched. Through research, I found that the Quran has not been touched, and it's the same as you would find it back in like Mecca. It'd be written the exact same way. When it came to, the research over the Quran, it was more of, like I was more reading about what the Quran was about.
Okay.
Wasn't more I was pulling out passages, because I myself didn't be able to pull out passages before that, so I wasn't able to get my hands on the Quran yet during that time. That's why it was all through research that I found that this information came to be. Especially in the case of, I only learned a couple of the supposed scientific miracles. The fetus, how it explained how the fetus, the flesh comes before the bones. The earth is three quarters water, and if the earth was so much more further from the sun, we'd roast. The earth was so much closer to the sun. Further we'd freeze, closer we'd roast, kind of things like that, and like that makes sense. And then later on, I looked when I got the Quran itself, and then my friend was telling me about quotes I should check up. In the case of my knowledge that I know of comes from a lot more from animals. Okay. So when it came to the insect, it explained how the bee she is a very hard worker, and that is mind-boggling because we never knew that insects or bees were she's, that the only worker bees are she's for like till maybe a couple centuries ago. And that's just amazing. My friend, right before Ramadan, which was kind of funny, my friend ordered a Quran for all three of us, and we were like, he's like, I got a surprise for you guys. So we come over and he has the Quran ready for us, and we're like, oh cool. It's like, and then he told us that we gotta do that. Let's do it today because we got the Quran. Ramadan's about to start. Let's do it today, and then we could do Ramadan together as like.
So you're in the deep end.
Yeah. Well, to tell you the truth, fasting wasn't that hard for me. It was an experience. I can say that much. From day one, like as soon as even from the day I got the Quran, I felt like Ramadan had started, because I felt constant tests. My mom was, some way, my mom had to look in my bag that day and find my Quran. Which she had to question me about, what are you doing with this? Are you Muslim now? And I was put in a tight spot where I basically had to say, yes, I am. I couldn't hide from her. And she gave me at first, she gave me a nice, peaceful talking to, like thinking I'm kind of crazy, kind of saying, it's like, it's a phase. And then while fasting, my mom's wondering why I'm not eating. So I'm constantly saying, I'm not going to eat today. I'm not going to eat. I'll eat later. So, and then just kind of escalated out of like constantly getting angry at me, and like the days would go by because I wasn't able to get a job that year, so I was constantly at home getting tested by my mom's, and my patience was like trying to control myself, making sure that each day that I was fasting was worth it, trying to catch every single one of my prayers without my mom scalding me, trying my best to keep her from getting at me. And then that's happened for 30 days, constantly learning more and more about the Quran every day. I was able to read about half of the Quran by the end of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, and learn a lot. And the phrase was constantly coming up where be patient. The disbelievers continue disbelief and try to push you away and force you into believing what they believe. And those kind of things kept coming up and reinforcing me every night for the next morning and everything like that, and catching caught almost every 5 prayers every day for 30 days. And by the end of the month, on the last day of Ramadan, my mom didn't say anything to me. For that whole day, she was completely quiet, and it was just like a peace-ridden day. Like she was really nice to me, and I was just like, at the end, like I was like, coincidence or not, I was tested throughout Ramadan. Like I know for sure that I was tested throughout Ramadan, and at the end of the day, that was my gift. One day of peace, because in September I was starting school, which I'm not gonna be home anyways, and so I was like, alhamdulillah. We were all of us were fasting, but we all had our own things to do. We both kind of all of us kind of were having issues at home at the exact same time, and we were all kind of. Actually, we actually had a sister join us too. She wasn't. She was looking into during that time. She was looking into Islam, and she was finding the truth. She was a Jehovah's Witness, and is a dear friend to us now still. And she was fasting for the sake of it. She knew that the prophets before fasted, so she was doing it during the month of Ramadan too. And for all of us during this whole month, we were having issues with our parents, and we were kind of laughing about how crazy it is that they're going off the wall with these small little things. Like my mom was kind of going crazy and saying, "I would prefer that you were atheist over you being Muslim," and I'm like going, "Are you sure?" Yeah, like things like that. And we're just kind of like we were all having issues at home. We were all trying to find a job to get away from home and to support and to like at least have some fun times during summer. But we never got that. We were just getting constantly tested, and we'd always have those little bit peaceful nights together where we were able to talk about it and just kind of be like reinforce each other's wills. Be like, yeah, our parents are like this, but in the end it'll be better. In the end it'll be better. And in the end it was. I can say that much. It was better. When it comes to at home, since I'm at school all the time, when I come home, I usually get a lot of heat. My mom would always bring up the same thing, that I'm Muslim and it's wrong. But I found a way. I just kind of ignore it and accept. I just tell my mom, like it's okay. Just try not to get too angry at me. I'm trying to focus on school, and she would get off my back. So that's good. Also, another thing is that while at school, I found the MSA, which is the Muslim Student Alliance and Association, which was really helpful in the case of that. I'm actually right now I'm learning a lot from them, and met very kind brothers, and like they're really great people, and I've enjoyed every single moment of prayer with them and talking about things and learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Quran and the Sunnah and things like that. Like right now, life to me is quite easy, except for maybe the problems with I'm a little behind in school, but that's my own issue. It's actually an icebreaker I use once in a while with friends, because like I've met some Muslims, I met some Muslim sisters, and like I talk to them, and I'm always saying like I'm religious. I always try to stick with even before becoming religious. My friends and me always focused on becoming the most real person we can be, the most true person. And in the end, being real to yourself, you're just naturally morally good. You're just naturally good if you become more real. You're not focusing on all these stereotypes or things. You're just being yourself, and that's the good thing. And then with being yourself, you want to treat people nicer, because being real is you're an individual. You're not part of the masses. The masses are against you now. So you try to treat people better because everyone's against you, and you're like, I'm being myself. Why aren't you being yourself? You're following everybody else. So when it comes to this, when it comes to being Muslim and people going against me, I have no issue. I go, I'm being myself. You're not being yourself. I'm a stronger person because I'm myself. You're confused and you don't know what you're doing. But when it came to meeting the sisters, it's always like meeting other people. Since I'm myself and they understand that, and I'm not trying to be conceited, but I'm naturally just a good person and I'm really nice. So when I tell them I'm Muslim, it's kind of, I think I'm trying to set up a good example that what you see in TV are not good Muslims. Like they're usually kinder and nicer, and it's like I said, it's an icebreaker. So I met a sister, and then she couldn't figure out what I was. She kept saying I was Christian, or they even thought Jewish. Especially with what I've seen, like I met all types of Muslims. I met Muslims that say they're just Muslim by name. I've met really enthusiastic Muslims, and I've met like some of them that are like fighting other Muslims for the sake of they think their beliefs are better than others. And I just go, a lot of people I think are following it blindly. And I like to say that try to be yourself. Try to identify yourself. Find out who you are as a person before you're listening to other people. If you don't know who you are, why are you listening to other people to tell you who you are? Because you are the only person that knows who you are. And if obviously if you believe, if you're like maybe a different sect of Muslim, you might have different beliefs, but don't like attack other Muslims for it. Like if you know who you are, you'll know what's morally right. Like should you be saying these things, or should you just maybe keep it quiet for now and like bring it up? Oh, I think it like this way, and get into a friendly debate. Because I've seen a lot of like nasty debates, and I don't want to see that between brothers and sisters, or brothers and brothers, or sisters and sisters. We should stay united, and we should stay united, because this is what's going to cause us to be like the Christians again, or what happened to the Buddhists. It's just going to divide us, and we might fight among ourselves. For the sake of, if you're truly Buddhist, you'll research and you'll find these things, but you gotta look at it from an open mind and truly believe what Siddhartha said. He told you, he talked about Brahma, but remember that his words are written by his disciples.
Yeah.
So you'll say, so if he says God, his disciples may have written gods, but then he'll say Brahma. Now Brahma is one God, 3 parts, but one God in the end. So that's what you gotta focus on. You gotta remember that it'll lead to it. You just gotta keep your mind open, keep your heart open, and even if you just look into Islam on its own, there's a lot of things. I find a lot more good and less contradictions, or none at all, when it comes to Islam.